Alchemy VTT is by far the best looking VTT out there on the market right now. The real question though is it the best VTT in general, or more importantly, is it the best VTT for you and your table? And that's the question we're going to try to answer today. And spoiler alert, I think for a large group of people that Alchemy VTT either is or shortly will be that VTT of choice and the one that most people should play. Now for me, I have some serious hangups with Alchemy. Even though I love what they're doing, I love the people over there, I have some serious hangups. So we will talk about that later on in the video, but we're just going to start off here with all the pros so I can kind of sell you on what are the great things about Alchemy. So first off, we kind of already talked about it. Alchemy is beautiful. It's by far the best looking VTT out there. It's also very easy to use and user friendly. Now, part of that is due to the simplicity of the system currently. As they add things, they are really going to have to focus on the UI, but the other part of that is just that they have great UI design. And as far as like where's everything at and ease of use, things are, you click where you would think you would want to click in most situations, and they've done a great job with that. There are many other VTTs out there, some of which I really like, but I can absolutely tell that the UI was designed by someone who is a programmer, not someone who is specialized in UI. And that is not the case at all with Alchemy. Alchemy also has one of the best fog of war systems out there. And what I mean is like Roll20 and Foundry VTT, Foundry being my personal favorite VTT, Alchemy has a better fog of war system out there by far. And it's funny because it's actually better because it's so simple. You can simply draw fog of war or erase it. And it's funny because these other systems, while it's so much more complicated, you've got to hit multiple buttons, you've got to set vision for all your characters, and the UI aspect of that on these other VTTs is just not there. It's not simple, it's not easily usable, and it's so complicated that in a pinch, you would rather just not use it in most situations. I have personally had so many situations where my players go to a location that I wasn't expecting, and I'm like, oh, it's going to be dark. And it's like, you know what? I'm just going to show them the map because I don't want to spend the time it takes disrupting the flow of gameplay, even if it doesn't take that much time, just disrupting the flow of gameplay to set all the visuals, to get everything set up. And, you know, I forget how to do it half the time. And it's a problem. One player saying, oh, I still can't see. You don't want that. In Alchemy, all you have to do is just brush over where you want to be hidden. And then as things are revealed, you just brush it off. Yes, it reveals it to the entire party. Yes, it's a fairly simplified system, but honestly, in a lot of aspects, that makes it better than most of the other VTTs out there. And it's honestly something that I wish many of them would adopt, but we'll talk about that kind of stuff a little bit later. Other things I really like about the Alchemy VTT are how easy it is to edit characters and actually make your character sheet in Alchemy. Okay, some of the other systems you technically can do this, but many of them it's so complicated and so convoluted and such a pain that it's just not worth it to do it. I find Alchemy to be fairly straightforward. Everything has a place, and honestly, it's pretty easy to make a character. Now with that, there are bugs. Everything is not perfect. We'll get to that. Alchemy is still in beta or early access. Okay, so it is not a full, complete, and totally done VTT, even though it's fairly close to that. Other things, tactical mode. Tactical mode is so awesome. So you have a really pretty screen, right, that you can show your characters and they can see, oh, this is really nice. And then at the click of a button, you switch to an entirely different scene. And this is already loaded. And so you can have your characters in the tavern, and then a tavern brawl breaks out. And you, being the smart and intelligent GM you are, knew that the barbarian was going to cause some problems. And so you can, at one click of a button, switch to the tactical mode, have a new map already loaded, have any kind of visuals or shadow, fog of war, what have you, already on the map, and you can just go into play. Now, I would like to see some additional features. We'll talk about that in the drawbacks, where this is fairly simple. Players can go into tactical mode themselves. So you have to tell your players, hey, don't click that button. I have something I want to reveal in a minute, but it's a really great feature otherwise. Now, there are a couple more features that I think are really important I want to talk about, but I just want to run through some really quick nice to have features that are already in Alchemy. So easy to implement systems and modules, okay? Loading in a module and getting your system up and running with Alchemy is by far the easiest I have found out of all of the virtual tabletops that I personally tried. This is arguable, but I think it's fairly safe to say it's at least as good as any of the other ones. Integrated music and visuals, okay? This is something that, again, it's easy to use, and if you buy the kind of premium editions of various modules and what have you, they come preloaded, they have all the music, they have some of the visuals, the slight movement. That kind of stuff is a really nice to have for a lot of people who have more money than time and just want something that really looks good and you know, works, which I know is not for everybody, but is for quite a few people. And then the third thing is, this integrated streaming. I think this is a really interesting feature, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm not gonna spend the time it probably deserves right now, because I think it probably deserves its own video. But the integration of streaming and being able to pull up visuals, yes, you have this in other VTTs, and honestly, I typically, in my groups, usually don't use this. I have to intentionally say, okay, hey guys, I need to test this out, so today we're playing, you know, turn on your cameras, and we're doing it all in this VTT. Normally we just use Discord for audio, and I don't need any of these features. But what Alchemy is doing here is actually making it where streamers, people who do stuff similar to what I do, can actually use Alchemy for everything. And you can actually go into Alchemy and find live games. I love that. I have looked for live games on Alchemy. I don't think anybody's really using it for that yet. But I think as it develops, as this system comes out of beta and becomes full-fledged and they start adding more and more systems, I can absolutely see this happening. I think there needs to be more features like, hey, how you can donate to your favorite creators who are making good content. I think there's all kinds of other features, maybe even some storage so you can watch it after the fact. I'm totally fine with that. I mean, I love YouTube. Obviously, I'm here, but I think those are some really cool features and stuff that they're working on. I also think to the average group of players, this is mostly unnecessary. Again, I think about 50%. I actually did a poll here on the channel asking like, hey, who uses visuals at all? Like who uses a camera whenever you're playing in person? And I think a little bit over 50% of people said that they do. But I know for me and my table, a group of friends, we just use Discord for everything, except for the actual virtual tabletop visuals themselves.
Okay, now just to make it clear what all you can and can't do. So you have here your scenes, which are basically what you would think. If you go down here, everything of course takes 2 clicks, as I mentioned. As you might expect, you can actually preview them before you bring all of your players onto that scene, just to make sure everything's okay. Maybe you want to double check your tactical mode, make sure everything's all right. You also have, if you have any kind of story notes, a lot of these are going to be blank, but this one is preloaded for this particular module. You can add anything you would like there. There are some tools. These tools are kind of a trick though, because most of these are not fully fleshed out. Just realize whenever you see these actions here that it's probably not going to do what you actually think it's going to do. It's only going to have partial functionality. Now, if we go over here to handouts, we can see that you can create handouts, you can share handouts and what have you with your various players. Again, everything's going to take 2 clicks kind of unnecessarily. You can add your own. If we go into edit game here, we will also see that there is no way to make a trusted player. You know, a lot of times in my games, I play with a lot of friends that we played for a very long time, and I want them to be able to do most of the things that a GM can do, which is hide a few things. So I want them to be able to upload music, upload their tokens, create and destroy tokens if they have a pet or some sort of summon or what have you, and there's not really those kind of features implemented within Alchemy right now. The other thing is, if we look over here at the journal, it kind of made the same mistake as many other VTTs, where the journal and your dice rolls are all one thing. So if you say anything and then you roll some dice, all that stuff's going to get buried, and that's kind of a problem. Also, under notes, I would really like to see a much more robust system for notes. Typically, in long-form campaigns with my groups, we have at least one player, maybe several of them, taking notes either for themselves or for the party or for the GM. And so having it all there and having the GM notes and having it organized with files and what have you, where you can, you know, pull something back up from 6 months ago and have it easily accessible, this system is not as robust as I would like it to be. And then, of course, something I consider to be kind of basic functionality at this point, if you go to add a scene and you create new, that you can name it, location, what have you, but you can also import various sound effects, music, ambient sound, all kinds of stuff here. So that's really nice, you know, and it's kind of what I would expect. There's also a lot of content you can get directly from the creators of the various systems. So you see here with Vossen by Free League. I just want to say that Free League also, just as a by the way, these guys have been great. I've asked them for some assets to help me do these kind of reviews, and they were amazing and helped me out with it, and it's just been really great. There's also community created assets as well. You can also set kind of overlays with the ambient encounters, the sounds, and then motion effects. So you can have, you know, rain and what have you going on in the background. You can kind of layer those things on. This is all really nice and really one of the things I expect in a really well done VTT. Of course, tactical mode, you can change up your grid, you can do hexes and what have you, and then if you've got any notes for that particular scene. I also want to address real quick some of the marketing for Alchemy VTT. You know, they said, hey, this is more for theater of the mind and it's not for tactical role-playing. If you're not doing tactical role playing, you don't need a VTT. So I really don't understand this whole like, oh no, it's theater of the mind as opposed to something else. And I hear a lot of creators that are doing reviews echoing this marketing, and it's fine for marketing, but I really don't see how this is not for those who want something tactical, or how it's better for people who want more theater of the mind. Really, the only thing is that like the aesthetic is nicer because the UI looks a lot better. But again, there's a lot of functionality missing here. Like I'm trying to right now grab and drag, and I can't move this, and I also can't minimize it, and I can't do anything else while I'm in this scene. I have to exit out. And also, if I pull this up, and this goes with all the menus, and I click over here, I would like this to go away, and it won't. I always have to hit the X, and that's kind of an annoying thing when you're trying to move through the UI and it takes a bit of extra time, and I'd really like to see that kind of stuff improved. That's not particularly hard to do. Again, they could easily do this, but it's not there right now.
Okay, now let's move on to this couple of really big things, right, that I kind of saved to the end. So this one is it's not gonna seem like that much to you, okay? But it's actually pretty huge. Companies really like the way Alchemy integrates their system into Alchemy themselves, okay? What I mean by that is that Alchemy is in the process of making sure that it works with all these different game systems. Now, what I would say is that that's on a fairly basic level, okay? There's a lot of game systems. Most game systems really have some sort of niche, some sort of specific thing. If you're talking about Dragonbane, maybe that's the initiative system, right? But whatever game system you're playing, there's something that's usually a little bit different, a little bit unique about that particular system, even though various systems share these in common. Alchemy has very cookie cutter integrated most systems, okay? They're running through the list. They're adding some weekly that you'll see, hey, this various system has been added to Alchemy. So there's a wide array of systems you can use with Alchemy, and it's constantly expanding. But the main thing is that companies don't have to have a dedicated person who's like, oh, I know how to integrate our modules in Alchemy VTT or Foundry VTT or Roll20. And so that's a huge benefit, especially to smaller companies who don't have the tech support, don't have the people for that kind of thing. So I think that a lot of companies really like that and would really like to lean into this feature in Alchemy. I would also love to see, and it's one of the things that really distinguishes Alchemy from a lot of the other VTTs out there, but I would really like to see other companies adopt this model much more and get more system integration into their various VTTs. And then the last thing that we kind of already touched on is it really seems like Alchemy wants to be a streaming platform for people who are playing TTRPGs, and I think that's awesome. Again, more competition in the market is always good for you and me, the consumer, okay? More competition in the market breeds innovation, and it also drives down costs. Okay, all that sounds amazing, right? Everybody should go out there, everybody should switch to Alchemy VTT, and that's the end of this video. Not so fast. There is a catch, and actually a couple of catches, okay? Some things that you really need to consider and be aware of before you decide you're gonna move over to Alchemy VTT. And I will say that for me, at least one of these issues is a deal breaker, and it's why I won't be using Alchemy VTT as my primary tabletop moving forward. Now, having said that, I am not the normal user, but I actually think for a large group of people, maybe even most of the market, Alchemy does tick those boxes, but there are some things you just absolutely need to be aware of. So that's what we're gonna run through here, some of the cons. So UI. Now, I said it's the best looking UI, and I absolutely stand by that. It's the best looking VTT out there, period. However, the UI, it's kind of bad. It's honestly, it's really bad. Everything about it could be improved. Now, what I think that this relatively small team has done is that they've gone through and they've made something that works and works decently well. And I absolutely have no criticisms about that. I think that is definitely the way to go. Get everything up and running, get everything working, get as many systems you can integrated, and then go back and do another pass and help improve everything. The other thing is, while I think the UI could be improved pretty much across the board with just about everything, I also think that all 99.9% of those changes could be done relatively easily and relatively quickly. So I'm not really worried about that. So hopefully that's great to hear. The other thing, again, is that the features are fairly bare bones. You don't have the journals like in other game systems where you can have your own, your own private journal, not like the game's journal of everything that's happened and going to happen and what have you. What I mean is like actually having a journal entry that you can make notes to yourselves and save them, and make various notes and save them in different places, put them in file folders, organize them, share some with the GM, maybe share all of them with the GM, whatever the case may be, share them with other players. It doesn't have a lot of that kind of functionality yet. Any system that has a specialty feature, those are generally speaking not integrated or only partially integrated at this time. Again, it's still in beta. I think they'll go live largely with what they have, and I think they plan to do another pass. And again, I think that the team is doing a great job. I have no complaints about this. But it is important to understand where they are in the process so that you can make, hey, is this currently something that I would be satisfied with? Now, the other thing about being in early access or in a beta, whatever you want to call it, is that there are bugs, okay? There are bugs that are going to come up, and some of them are not a big deal, and they're just kind of mildly inconvenient. Some of them have been game-breaking, and people have reported hey, we weren't able to finish using the VTT, and it was a huge problem for us. Again, early access, this is absolutely going to happen. And I think right now it might be for early adopters. If you're wondering about your particular game system, go check out the Discord. They have plenty of people there that can answer your questions and say, hey, I plan on running XYZ module or XYZ system. If you had any problems with it, how's the stability and what have you. And the other thing is that you can go try it out for free. Okay. So you don't have to buy before you try it out and see, hey, is this going to work for us? Does anybody's system have a problem with this? Is it crashing? What have you? But just realize it still is in beta. And so that early adopter, there is that early adopter tax of there might be some headaches along the way. We found some with my group. I was very concerned about them. And it was one of those things where I was honestly afraid I was going to have to do a video being like, hey, don't go buy this. It doesn't work. Luckily, they resolved these issues. And it is either they resolved it or it's a very odd and intermittent bug, which does happen, but I don't really blame them for not having it fixed just yet if that is the case. But just a buyer beware on that aspect. Okay, now let's talk about the deal breaker for me personally, and that's going to be monetization. So Alchemy is a subscription service, and for me, I really don't like that. I want to see what a product is. I want to purchase and I want to own that product. And if you add additions to that, if you make improvements to it, then I am happy for you to sell me the upgrade, to sell me the newest edition or whatever it happens to be. And if I like it and I want to buy it, I want to purchase it. Subscription models as a whole have been used a lot in recent history. This is not with Alchemy or with across all industries to really honestly take advantage of consumers. And so I'm just so over it with them. And again, this is a hang up for me personally. Okay. I know this will not be for many people, but I do have to mention it here. It is a subscription service. You can try it absolutely for free. You can have up to 3 games going at the same time. Another issue that I kind of have with the subscription service that I think could be a very easy fix. But right now, if you purchase various systems so that you have Dragonbane and you have Dungeons and Dragons and you have GURPS and what have you, even if you purchase more than 3 of those, you can only have 3 games active at the same time, or have made more games when you had an active subscription. And then when they lapse, those games will stay there, but you can't add more. So there is a situation that could come up where you have more game systems purchased than you can actually have games active without a subscription. Not that big of a deal. Get a subscription for a month, create the games, I guess, let it lapse. I don't know. There's probably many ways, but that kind of feels like you're tricking the company. I would actually really like them to just say, hey, you can have 3 or the maximum number of systems that you've purchased. Okay, so if I've bought more than 3 systems, I can have at least 1 world for each system active at any given time, even if I don't have a subscription. Now, I realize that they need to pay for storage, and really what they have said their intent was, and I believe them. I've only had a chance to talk with one person at the company, Vinny. I actually interviewed him at PAX East. Seems like a great guy. He's definitely a gamer. He has one game. It's been going since college for him. It's been going for a crazy long time, and they meet every week. It's nuts. Go check out that video if you're interested and you want to learn more about the company and more about Vinny and the people that are involved here in Alchemy. But I absolutely believe that they have good intentions. And what they have said is that, hey, we want a subscription model so we can continue to make improvements. And I think that is a great thing. And I think they're absolutely, they're working on it. They seem to be making changes. And I'll be honest, I dropped in their Discord, and both in public and in private, I asked some really, really pointed questions. Some that honestly would get me blacklisted by most giant corporations because they don't want to answer those questions. They're hard questions. And Vinny and the folks over at Alchemy have done a great job of answering all of them and assuaging my fears. And that's why I'm so happy to say, hey, this is a great product. I think you should go check it out if it meets the criteria for you. But the monetization, the subscription, it's not going to be my game of choice or my VTT of choice for that reason, just because if I ever have an alternative, which we do in the market, I'm going to go with that alternative if it's at all comparable. Now, again, having said all of that, I just want to reiterate that I think for many people, maybe most people, what Alchemy is shaping up to be might be the market leader. And I think that's very possible. Game companies love it. They love that it's integrated and that Alchemy is doing a lot of the lifting in converting their various systems and modules. They also do value added things where you can buy essentially like a deluxe version where you have a little bit of movement on the screen, a lot of audio that goes with it and everything else. I think that's great. I also think for most people, having a simple system is what you need. One of the VTTs that I really love is Foundry. But Foundry, you look at it and you're like, yeah, this was made by a computer programmer. It's improved over time, but I think Alchemy really has that really nice polish and user experience. Yes, it's simple, but that's actually a feature in some ways for a lot of people. Anyways, hopefully this video gives you a really good idea of overview of Alchemy RPG and let you know what you should be excited for and some things that maybe you're a little bit concerned about. If you want to know my views on some other TTRPGs, whenever I finish with those reviews, I'll have them pop up on the screen right now. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.